lie. But the cold felt good outside too, though. So it's good to get out there in that today. Just grab a sip of this real quick. So just a couple injury updates. I know you guys will be asking anyway, so I'll just get out in front the injury-wise. So starting with the quarterback, Derek just hasn't progressed enough this week where I feel like the things we talked about the other day, I just don't feel comfortable right now in him playing. So Spencer Rattler will start the game. Derek will be out. He won't be in uniform, so we will not have he'll just be inactive. I mentioned Alvin the other day wasn't looking really good. That's the case. He's going to be out as well, and so we'll be out with both those guys for this game. Like I said, Spencer will start, and then running back wise, like we talked about the other day, it'll have to be a committee approach. All those guys are going to get work, and have to pick up the slack for what we're losing there with Alvin. So that's where we're at right now.
Where is Derek with his rehab? You were saying a few days ago you felt like it was going well.
Yeah, listen, the last couple of days have definitely been encouraging. That's the good. He's starting to get some of the grip strength back and all that. I just felt like in talking with him and talking with the medical staff, we're certainly inching closer. But with where he is right now, I just didn't feel like he had enough time on task to get out there and perform and the way we want him to perform. So I just feel better with the way it is right now. But he has improved.
How would you characterize the week Spencer's had preparing? Is that started?
Yeah, man. You guys know I'm like a stickler for the little things, and I get jump on guys in practice, and I'm looking for things to get on them for. And today's a great example. I'm back there by the huddle, listening to the play calls, watching them, get the team in and out of the huddle. We got the play clock going to replicate as much as we can. We got crowd noise, and so I'm trying to make it as hard as possible on him. And he's really had a good couple of days, Nick. I was impressed with him today. Probably his best day. So let's hopefully that translates to the game Monday night. But he's had a good week of practice. I'm excited for the opportunity for him.
You mentioned earlier in the week, sometimes when you come in midway, you can kind of a little freer. What is a little bit more difficult about starting the game as opposed to maybe being that guy in relief?
Well, I think especially for a rookie, there's some overthinking involved, or a guy that hasn't had a lot of starts, there's some overthinking involved. Sometimes when you come off the bench, right, there's not a lot of, hey, you got to go. And you don't get that chance to maybe overthink all the different things and the scenarios and all that. When you're the starter, sometimes you may go into a game and you're thinking of the first and second down plan, the third down plan, the 2-minute plan, and the red zone plan. All of a sudden it kind of piles up on you, where all of a sudden it's like, it's like basketball. It's like, hey, off the bench, let's go, and you're not out there overthinking it. And I think for young, inexperienced quarterbacks, that can kind of pile up a little bit. I think our coaching staff has done a great job with that this week, preparing him. And like I said, hopefully that translates to Monday night. But that's some of the obstacles sometimes, and sometimes you're just freer and easier coming off the bench, in any sport, But that situation particularly, yep.
With Alvin out and you talking about it being, running back by committee kind of approach with Miller and the rest of those guys, what's kind of your confidence level in the rest of that room, and what are your expectations for those guys individually?
Yeah, well, I think here's the good news. Let's hopefully, Kendra can kind of pick up where he's left off the last couple of weeks. Jamal Williams has had many, many games in that division, in that stadium, and he's had some really good ones. He's obviously played for them and played within the division with Detroit, so he's got experience there. I think, between Kendra and Jamal and Jordan Mims, like I said, I think you'll see all those guys at some point during the game in the offensive backfield. And I don't think there's going to be one guy that's going to get 40 carries. But I do think it is going to be a committee approach, and I think we got to do a great job of accentuating the positives of each of those players, offensively with our game plan. And they all have different, attributes, just like everybody. And I think we got to do a great job of making sure that those guys are locked in game plan wise. And let's lean on Jamal's experience. Let's lean on Kendra's last couple of weeks, see if we can't continue that trend.
You had mentioned on Thursday that you were waiting to see kind of where Clyde originally was with the playbook. What has been your evaluation of him so far this week?
Yeah, I actually, obviously, every day getting a little better. Seeing him out there, running the plays. We haven't made a final decision yet of whether or not he's going to be, a call-up, an elevation. It's going to depend, quite frankly, on some other positions and whether or not we can go with 3 or 4 backs But with where he is, I like his first 3 days. He's kind of got a little pep in his step, a little juice. Like I said, talked about the other day, a little breath of fresh air, change of scenery, and so I'm really glad we got him, and he's been a positive so far here in the building. So I'm looking forward. We just haven't made that. We had the good news, bad news of playing a Monday night game is you do have a little bit more time. We don't have to do the elevations a little bit till later. We don't have to do the actives and all that. So we'll kind of play that one by ear. If we can get them again, accelerate the mental the next couple of days, there's a chance.
Of course, a win is the ultimate goal in any football game, but just when it comes to Spencer Rattler and for you all, what sort of constitutes success for him on Monday night?
Yeah, I think what constitutes success for any quarterback is efficiency. I think I mentioned the other day that the turnover thing is going to be a huge thing always, but certainly on the road and certainly with what their record has been since Matt took over at home. So I think getting a good start for him, starting up, getting him some confidence and some positive plays early on. That's what happened last week with Jake. Jake just had some negative plays early, and I kind of felt like it piled up on him. I think the start of the game is going to be important. We got to get him some confidence, get him rolling, but really just being efficient. And obviously we're playing in some elements. Hopefully it doesn't look like it's going to be too bad, but it's certainly different than here. And so getting acclimated to that, getting up there a little bit earlier tomorrow and getting acclimated to that will be important as well. But listen, I think like I said earlier, any quarterback limiting the negative plays, and being efficient. And then we just haven't done a good job overall in the last month or so on third downs. And I think when we get ourselves in some third manageables and converting to drives and continuing drives is going to be really important against this team in that environment.
Not only will it be tough conditions, but also this is a really tough defense, top 10 scoring, top 10 total. What's allowed Green Bay to have the most success on that side?
Yeah, they're really getting it from all positions. I think I mentioned the other day, when you look at their overall roster, it's hard to pick out a weakness. They really don't have a weakness on their team, and that's credit to the organization. They've done a really nice job. They've been really good up front with their defensive line, a number of different guys making plays. Their linebacking crew, they added some pieces to the puzzle there at linebacker. Obviously, the acquisition with McKinney, he's leading the league in interceptions. We've watched they've caused a bunch of some turnovers down in the red zone. Some teams have been able to move the ball. They did it to Seattle last week. Seattle's about to make it a one-score game, and they intercept Geno in the end zone. So those are the things that are going to be important. They've been able to make big plays and create negative plays, and that's why their defense has been so good. Jeff Hafley obviously came in. I've known Jeff a long time. He's a really, really good coach, and he's got them rolling right now. 11 hats to the ball on that side of the ball, so it's going to be important. I think the beginning of that game, like I talked about, no different than the quarterback. I think the beginning of the game, not letting that defense kind of get the snowball going down the hill is going to be really important also.
I think you guys have until Wednesday to activate Bob. How is he is he still, I know he's been practicing it, is the window still open?
Yeah, he had a setback in his recovery here in his rehab, so it really hasn't really gone as planned for Bub. We opened up the window, he started practicing, he had a little bit of a tweak with the same exact injury, nothing new, and so he just wasn't as far along right now with the rehab, so my gut tells me he'll probably end up going back to the IR. We'll kind of see what the next few days, but he hasn't been able to practice these last few days. So that's obviously disappointing for him, disappointing for us, disappointing for everybody. So just a little bit of a setback with him getting back out there. So.
What's your philosophy on, obviously Jake started last week, got pulled at halftime. In terms of the leash for a young quarterback, do you allow him, if things aren't going well, do you allow him to play through some of those struggles? Do you have to kind of manage that throughout a game? And how do you kind of communicate that to the player going into the game of, hey, if things don't go well at the start, should he be looking over his shoulder? How do you handle that?
I think every platform's different. I think every game's different. I think, last week I mentioned, if a couple of those plays had gone in a positive way for Jake, maybe the result would have been different. So I think you kind of play that game out, each particular game, no different than deciding to go on a fourth down or go for it on a 2-point conversion. Just you're not going to have a blanket, statement. So we're going to go in with all the confidence in the world with Spencer. We'll see how the game plays out. We're certainly not going in saying you got this short of a leash and you're going to get yanked after this if this certainly not going in with anything like that. Going in with all the confidence in the world, but specifically to answer your question, I really do think it's a game by game. Last week I just felt like we weren't doing anything right at some point. We just needed that change and needed a spark. So hopefully that's not the case this week. Hopefully Spencer's able to hang in there the whole time.
circumstances of a season can change that too? Like, say, the same situation was in week 3 versus now when y'all are kind of still trying to fight for your playoff lives.
I do. I mean, in terms of moving the quarterback, I think it depends. It also depends on who the player is. If you're dealing with a longtime vet that's just having a bad game, it's different than maybe a guy that, and it also depends on who the next guy in is. Also, I think there's a lot to be said for that. Who's coming off the bench. Where there's if you have this big, long, experienced quarterback that's just not playing well, and you have a below or average backup, or in our situation, we feel like it was a tough decision last week between Jake and Spencer, and so because of that, because it was so close, that's why I felt more comfortable making the decision at halftime that we made. So I just felt like if the circumstances were different, the players were different, it would be a different set of circumstances. Would probably cause for a different decision.
You mentioned halfway that you've known him a long time. What started that kind of relationship, and what's the extent of your relationship with him?
Well, it seems like this last month we had this jersey thing going on, right? So like every staff has this jersey guy. So they actually have a couple. But I've known Jeff for a long time. We have a lot of connections from New Jersey. We're from the same area. We both worked at Rutgers. He actually replaced me, ironically enough, when I left. So we've always had some close ties. I've always followed his career very closely. He's done a really good job. Their linebacker coach, Anthony Campanelli, his brother is the head coach at my high school, so we talk about a small world. Just guys I really respect, I've known a long, long time. Like I said, no matter where Jeff has been, whether it's been in college or the NFL, they've always played really strong defense. And then you just look at what he's done just in the short amount of time this season, really kind of getting them back on track, and they've been very, very productive. So nothing but respect for Jeff and their whole entire staff.
Albeit a loss, how does your defense, especially at front line, how do they build on an 8-sack game, especially in the conditions that y'all are going through?
Yeah, listen, I think that group's playing with confidence right now. I think the best part about the defensive line right now is it's not one-dimensional. We've gotten production from a number of different guys. That's kind of, I think, how we forecasted the season coming into it, is we felt like we had depth at that position. Maybe at some points during the beginning of the year, we kind of played with some peaks and valleys there. I think we're playing much more consistent on the D-line. That's going to be extremely important for this game, the way they run the ball, the way they've been, and when they mix in their play action, their pass protection. So I think, like I said, I think BY, as I said earlier in the week, has done a tremendous job with that change of scenery there in that room. I think that he's got the group playing with confidence right now. And so that's going to be a huge aspect for this game. One of our goals this week is naturally on both sides of the ball, like it is every week, to win the line of scrimmage. That's what they've done, particularly at home, and so that's going to be a great matchup to watch in this game for sure.
How did Chris Olave look this week? Getting back out there?
Happy. He looked like, he's been nothing but smiles for these past few days, and that's been just kind of a great story, just a great human story, to be honest with you. Human interest story, just, guy that's, really didn't know where he was going to be maybe, 6 or 7 weeks ago, what was going to happen to him, for his career, just moving forward, just to see him get back there on the field, see him smile, see him running around, see him laughing with the guys, see him in the locker room, like all that is heartwarming for me, because, there was some question there. There was some question there what was going to happen, and there was a lot of things that had to be, checked on and things like that. So he's looked good, really good. We've kind of given him a little bit more every day on the field from a football-specific standpoint. Kind of started slow. He did a little bit more every day. He's moving around like the Chris Olave I know, so that's a positive. So to see him out there, catching passes and running routes and just having fun. I mean, sometimes we forget about this is professional football, but sometimes we forget to have fun. And just to see him out there and enjoying himself is a big deal. So
Did y'all have not too much detail, of course,
Yeah.
but did y'all have the, hey, what could this look like for the rest of your career kind of conversation, or?
yeah, well, listen, I think there's always concern when it comes to a head injury, right? There's always the natural. He's also had multiple concussions, so I think we've all seen the national stories with some of those other players, not to name them, but from other teams, and it just becomes a natural concern. Listen, I have sons that play football, and so like I said, there's a human element to it. And so when you're dealing with that, that's why I think initially we talked about taking football out of the equation, just worry about is he going to be okay, and then taking the next step. And it's good for him that everything's checked out well. I think we did a great job. Our medical staff did a phenomenal job of just doing it the right way, doing it methodically, and making sure he didn't come back and return too quickly. And so, but there's always that natural concern early on when you're dealing with, when you're dealing with head injuries for sure. Yeah.
Weather is obviously one of the bigger conversations of this game. Being from being a Jersey guy, how much have y'all had that conversation? Like, don't think about the weather, just go out there, play your game. It's, I know you gotta prepare for it, but still.
Yeah, I think there's a huge difference between the cold and is it going to be wet, is it going to be windy, is it going to be all of them, and so naturally the wet conditions you could somewhat simulate. Today it was a little bit breezy, so you can somewhat simulate the wind. It's obviously not as easy to simulate the temperature sometimes down here, and certainly the snow if we get some of that. So, I think the one positive thing is we have a lot of guys on our roster that have played in cold climates before. There's very few guys in that locker room that haven't played in the elements, so that's, we do have experience from that standpoint. But, I think it's like somebody asked the other day, I think Nick or somebody asked about the footballs and things like that. There's only so much you can do. And so we try to do as much as we can, and that's why we're going to go up a little bit earlier. We're going to walk through up there tomorrow night outside, just to kind of get outside in the cold weather under the lights somewhere, kind of, So we're doing it everything we can, but there's only so much you can do. Here's the reality of the situation. The reality is, for people that don't know, is the sideline's warm. I mean, at the end of the day, they have all the heaters and the heated benches and everything. It's really when you get in between the lines and you go out and you do your deal. And that's not supposed to be terribly cold, so I don't see it being a huge factor. I'm more concerned about, is it going to be wet, windy, not so much the temperature. So, but we try to replicate and practice as much of that stuff as we can.
The injury report came out and said MBS did not practice today,
Yeah.
but we saw him out there, so it's day 2 of the illness.
Yeah, he had a little bit of a setback with the illness. I told you we got a little bit of a bug going around too, so he's dealing with multiple things there. Hopefully we get him kind of back on schedule tomorrow, but he didn't go out there today with helmet. He was just kind of out there in a jersey and just kind of going through the mental part of it, but he's kind of dealing with two different things there.
Was with the illness?
Well, yeah, he's.
Injury's good, it's just a matter of.
Well, I didn't say it was good.
Oh.
You said it was good.
No,
No, listen, he's listed on here for two different things because he's dealing with two different things. But naturally, with the illness, it set him back a little bit with his rehab. So I'm hoping we get him back on track tomorrow. Let's see. But that's why he hasn't been out there, because he had initially dealing with the one, and then he got sick in the middle of the whole thing. So, and that flu's been kicking some guys' butts in the locker room a little bit. And like I said last week, with Alvin. Fortunately for us, a couple guys got it earlier in the week. You certainly worry when guys get it later. No different than was at Washington's, center last week got it last minute. So knock on wood, we don't have any of those, including me.
This might sound kind of silly, but like if a guy's sick, how do you determine like whether he goes to practice or not? Like if it's cold outside, they could not make someone who's sick worse.
Come on, Catherine, that's an old fable.
I knew you were gonna say that.
You get sick because of germs, not because of temperature. Come on, your nose might run.
Why does that sometimes?
Seems like the Farmer's Almanac. Come on. No, honestly, the biggest reason when a guy gets ill, if they have the flu or we feel like it's contagious, to be honest with you, we're moving from the equation so that other guys, don't we don't fall into one of those traps where a bunch of guys get sick. So we've just tried to be smart with that. So a lot of times we'll isolate guys, or at least we're moving from the equation so we don't have repetitive, we don't have a domino effect there with the illness. But yeah, you sound like my mom. Don't go outside without a jacket on, right? You're gonna get sick.
When
Some of us like the cold less than others.
when it comes to Chris, you were saying how happy he looked in practice and how good it was to have him back out there. How has his return to play track kind of progressed in the last couple of days, and what needs to happen for him to be able to play kind of in the next game?
Yeah, listen, Chris is a big part of that equation. So our communication daily on how he's feeling. The last thing we want to do is throw a full plate on him when he came back. So it's going to kind of be just a little bit every day. I think that once he feels like he's got his conditioning back, don't forget he hasn't done any type of physical activity because he hasn't been allowed to. So it's not just going out catching passes and running routes and all that. It's just he literally hasn't been able to work out things like just simple things like just cardio, and so we're going just kind of working back into the progression. I've seen it before. Some guys come back quicker than others. I listen, if he can make it back here for the end of the year, great. If he doesn't, he doesn't. But we're leaving a big part of that up to him, kind of how he's feeling and taking that, week to week here. So as I mentioned, I didn't see him playing this week, but next week's a new week. We have still a long time before that next game, and so on and so forth. So, but I'll go back and say it again. Chris is a big part of that. He's going to kind of let us know how he's doing in the progression. So it's been a really good communication there between everybody, doctors, trainers, Chris, coaches, everybody. So that's been great. All right, guys. Appreciate you guys. You got it.
I feel like the week's been able to prepare as a starter this week.
Yeah, the week's been great. I think we're all dialed in on our plan. Like the plan, just got to go out there and execute. Nothing's going to be easy. So we got to be on top of our stuff, but we've had a great week. So we're ready to go up there and cut it loose, play free.
Kind of like in your own evaluation of last time to this time, like what are some of the things that you took away from that window and maybe having some time from it that you've been able to learn from it and grow for this time?
Yeah, I think, your first time out there, obviously with everything we had going on, different coach, a lot of injuries, a lot of missing pieces. That was a big part of it. So having guys back, makes it a lot better. And then I think just getting to sit back and watch how it's supposed to be done. I thought DC's been playing really well. Obviously a great vet in our league, great vet for us. So being able to learn under him, pick his brain, watch how he plays, go through his reads, talks in the huddle, gets in and out, it's been great. But just getting out there again, it was good.
Spencer, what about trying not to make the moment too big, like knowing it's a small sample size you're going to be judged off of? Did any of that put added pressure on last time? And I know this last time you got to just go into the game unexpectedly. Did that help in any way?
No, I think, like I said, we had a lot of missing pieces, and, that's just fact. I think that's it. And then, obviously going in a lot earlier than expected to, going from the 3 to the 1 in a couple days' notice, that's a big shell shock. But, thought we did well in certain parts throughout that. But again, we were so banged up, had a lot of missing pieces, and it's good to have guys back. Good to see those faces in the huddle.
After that second half against Washington, what are you just looking forward to building upon with this start?
Yeah, just keep playing. Football's football. You got to protect the ball, move the chains, score points. I thought we did a good job of that in the second half last game. One of our big goals this week is to come out fast. This is a really good team. We're playing one of the best in the league at their place on a Monday night. It's going to be a great challenge, so we got to come out fast and we got to stay fast. We haven't started out great, the last few weeks at home or on the road, and we got to come out hot in the second half as well. So those two areas, we have to be great in.
How did having like Eric McCoy back kind of help? So you get to play with him the first time around.
Changes everything. That's our guy. That's like our big just safety net in the middle. That's the smartest guy on the field. Knows everything, gets us in and out of right calls. He's a great talent. Having him out there just makes everybody feel a lot better.
What do you think of your completion percentage and kind of your accuracy through your first 4 games? Is that?
I wouldn't dive into that too much. A lot of throwaways, a couple missed opportunities, but I wouldn't be worried about that.
With Alvin out, obviously, this week, Rizzi was saying how it's going to be, running back by committee kind of approach with a couple different guys. How confident are you in those guys that they'll be able to, hold their own and help the offense, go?
Yeah, I'm confident in all those guys. They work their tail off every day in practice. I think you see how Kendra flashes in the games. Great runner, can catch the ball, can do a lot of things. So, his confidence is high right now. I want to get him the ball in the run game and pass game, and then Jamal as well and Jordan. So, I'm confident in all those guys.
Especially that throw to MVS, pockets collapse and can't really step into it. You just get it done. How do you process that? And what are you thinking as that's all happening? And how do you have the wherewithal to even get that throw up?
you're not thinking. You're just reacting. Like I said, they got in that too high shell. That was the look. I think I pulled him across the field a little too much. I think I said I took a hitch or two too much and made it harder on myself. But in that instance, you're not thinking. You're just reacting, making a play. And, Janoko and our guys in the QB room, we do these donut drills where you throw pads at you while you're making throws, so it's, in your face as you're making throws. So it gives you that game-like feeling. And then just trying to manipulate that throughout practice, I think helps. But you're not thinking, you're just throwing.
Is that kind of the key to like the calm that you have, like in those chaotic moments, is just really like not to even really acknowledge it and just kind of do what you got to do?
Yeah, I mean, you can't overthink it, you just got to. The pocket rarely is super clean, so being able to throw from any base, any pocket, gives you an advantage. I think you see the great quarterbacks in this league, make throws from anywhere in the pocket. If they got a good base, if something's off script, off schedule, you got to make that play and give your guy a chance. I think that's one thing I did this last game. I wanted to give my receivers, give my tight ends more chances. They're one-on-one. I trust these guys to go make that play. Don't be too safe. Let's go make some plays, have some explosives, and that gets the momentum and juice going for the offense.
Is that where his speed kind of factors into? Like, are you taking that extra hitch or two maybe because you don't realize he's as fast as he is? Is it?
No, I think I just, I kind of got a little high on my toes just to confirm everything, and I think that's what made it slightly late. But again, he made a great play. He made a great catch, and it just happened like that. But yeah, he can go. He can roll.
What is it like getting used to that speed? I know you played with Rashid and that, but like.
Yeah, I mean, you just got to put it out in front of them. Everybody's fast, so you don't want to underthrow those guys. You want to give them a shot.
Do you practice like all the off-base stuff, and like how do you do it?
Been practicing that since I was young, man. Any type of platform, any type of base, just trying to make yourself uncomfortable in practice so you're more comfortable in game. And I think our coaches do a great job of that in our practice, even with our slower tempo throughout team. But we'll speed up routes and speed up pressures and stuff just so we can get that feel. So I think getting that feel in practice, doesn't make it easier on game day, but gives you that same feeling you had in practice before.
And then like the mental part of that, like obviously you practice physical. Like is the mental part just kind of something that you either like have or don't, or is that something you can develop as well, or have you just kind of always been that guy? That's
a good question. I know everybody's different. Some guys react to pressure different than others. I think it's just confidence and reps on it. If you've seen it in the past, if you dealt with that in the past, and I think that helps. So. Like I said, a lot of guys are different. Not everybody's the same. So, yeah, I think it's a little bit of, okay, you got it or you don't.
Green Bay is top 10 in the league in scoring defense and total defense. When you watch them on film, like, what's the number one thing that stands out to you about them?
Yeah, I mean, they're good all around. I mean, up front, good. Linebackers are good. Good on the back end, obviously, with their safety, McKinney. I think he leads the league in picks, so he's a ball hawk. Got to know where he's at all times. And obviously, Jair Alexander, at corner, if he plays, he's one of the best DBs in the league. So just knowing where those guys are at all times. But for me, go through my progressions, get the ball out on time, don't make a bad play worse, and extend and give my guys opportunities, move the chains.
You didn't take any sacks in the second half against Washington. I think it was 14 in the first 3 starts. Is that an area that maybe you're working on improving? Do you feel like you operated better in that sense in the second half?
Again, I think, it's great having those 3 big, stout guys back in the middle. So, I mean, that's definitely a factor, having those guys in the middle. But, yeah, just getting the ball out, knowing where to go, being decisive. I think being decisive, you don't want to take any sacks unless, you're trying to make a play on a big down. But, going to do my best, going to do our best to avoid any sacks.
Spencer, what has Foster meant for you this year? His player, teammate, whatever.
I told him he's just a clutch player. I mean, he's a for sure target. I feel like he can match up well against anybody. Just big frame, sneaky speed, very long, and has great hands. And he's got a great mind for the game. I feel like every time I'm in with him, he finds the ball, and he's just got a great feel for the game. He's a great tight end.
Spencer, you seem pretty even keeled, cool, calm, collected every time we talk to you. As we go through the final weeks of the regular season, do you feel any pressure about where you all stand as you lead offense?
First off, thank you. But, no pressure. I think I just got to go out there and play my style of ball. As Rizzi says, do my 111th. Everybody's got to do their 111th, do their part. And if we do that, the result's usually pretty good. So there's no pressure. I mean, where we're at, we just got to play free. This is my first year, third or fourth start. I mean, I'm not looking to be a savior, but I want to go out there, play clean ball, play efficient, play at a high level to a standard that I hold myself to.
You ever played a snow game before?
I haven't played a snow game, but I've played in many cold games before in the Big 12, even in the SEC, cold, rainy, windy, like 30 degrees, 25, something like that. So should be fine.
You got to worry about breaking people's hands when it gets so cold, though, with how hard you throw?
They just got to catch it, man. I'm going to try to put it there.
Rizzi just talked about trying to simulate the best that y'all can in some of the environment that you go through. What has that been like?
It's actually been pretty good this week because, obviously our footing is the number one thing this week. We had to have our spikes in. We don't want to be slipping all over the field. You see that on tape. A lot of teams lose the games because they can't stay on their feet. Obviously, there will be some conditions. Luckily, it's been windy out here all week, so being able to deal with that in the passing game. And then, obviously, crowd noise will be a factor. We pump crowd noise in practice really loud, so, we can replicate that. So we've had a little conditions out here windy-wise this week, but even this morning, Janoko took us in the cafeteria freezer where it was like 10 degrees, and we're just going through the whole script in there. And so just doing that, I mean, that helped a lot. So hopefully it's not 10 degrees, but, we'll be ready.
How long have you ever called plays in a freezer?
What's up?
Is it the first time you've ever called plays in a freezer?
Yeah, that was the first for me. But Janoko's an interesting cat, man. Y'all would like him.
Did you go out as fast as possible? Or not?
We got through it probably in 5-10 minutes. We were in there for a good little minute, but it was good.
Just a teammate, how cool is it to see Chris get back after what he's been dealing with?
Yeah, it's good to have him back around. Obviously one of our best players. One of our guys. Good to see him, healthy and back out there running around a little bit. Obviously, he'll come back on his own timetable and what he's doing, but love to see him out there.
Cool. Thank you, man.
Thank you, guys.